I'd heard on this podcast, actually, like I'd heard a lot of people saying, well, sometimes it's not a fit or whatever. And I didn't believe it. I was like, nope, every company, I'm going to give them the opportunity to have a health plan that can go down.
Hello, and welcome to the Self-Funded with Spencer podcast, a show that cares about healthcare. Each week, we sit down with some of the top industry minds to discuss how this healthcare system works, what solutions actually deliver results for employers, and how do everyday Americans get access to better and cheaper care. So whether this is your first day on the job, or you're a grizzled industry veteran, or if you even randomly stumbled upon this podcast, I promise you that this show is full of information to help you understand this crazy world we call U.S. healthcare. So thanks for tuning in to the Self-Funded with Spencer podcast. Let's go make healthcare better together. Chris Cordon, great to see you, man. Thanks for coming down. I really appreciate chance to sit with you, man. You and I have kind of developed I would say an online kind of friendship relationship over the last couple of years at LinkedIn, and it's been fun to get to know you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Fun to get a chance to sit with you in person, man. So Chris, usually I like to say, hey, what's this episode going to be about? Like, and just general idea for a listener that's tuning in, may not be familiar with either one of us. Yeah, what do we want to cover today? So what's your vision? Tacos. Okay.
I'm kidding. No.
We start with tacos, or just the whole time we're going to go tacos?
Yeah, no, just the whole time. You know, it can be about the journey. I've got a burgeoning agency with my best friend who I've known since I was a kid, but also small businesses in Chicago. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
what I love about what you're doing is that you've sort of come to the world of this medical health insurance and medical insurance and level funding and self-insurance recently, right? But I think your work history is pretty interesting, some of the stuff you've done in the past. So I'd like to hear your bio, if you don't mind sharing who you are, growing up, what you studied. And then I think your work history is really interesting, how you found yourself at this point in your career in the medical side, because that wasn't what you've been doing for a long time. So why don't you tell us your story, man?
Well, I was always an actor. I was always, wanted to be on stage. That was kind of the artistic expression. I've been an artist for a long time. But so I went to college at North Carolina School of the Arts, and then got out, worked in restaurants because that's the byproduct of it. And then finally decided to sell something that mattered, which was a product from a carrier that I believed in because I need passion to do it. But it was, my business partner, when we were kids, we knew each other briefly, growing up with single mothers in Champaign, Illinois.
Okay.
And so 20 years later, I'm working in a steakhouse in Chicago, and after a month, we're just talking at the bar next door, asking, where'd you grow up, this stuff. And it was him. And so
that's funny. I mean, how many years had passed between that, about 7 to this point? It was
20.
20, right. So you're fully grown adults, right? You don't recognize each other. That's crazy. For a month you worked together and didn't even make the connection. But like once you found out, was like, oh my God kind of thing between both of you guys?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. We're like, oh my God, you and I traded baseball cards.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, but it was only for a period of like 3 months. But we have a distinct memory of, like, God, it was a mile down the road to like the pantry where we used to buy the Sour Powers. And then I remember he moved, and then my mother, both single mothers, and then both single mothers got married.
Yeah.
So you're living in a duplex.
Okay.
On a court, and
you guys were duplex neighbors then at that point? Okay, very cool.
I remember watching, God, that shows my age, but like I remember watching Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson's early fights.
Yeah.
Because his mom had HBO.
People, yeah.
Oh, yeah. His mom had HBO. I might have even saw Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard or something, but that's how long ago it was.
That's cool. But that's really cool, man. And so you guys came back together and became business partners. I would definitely want to touch on that story. But you mentioned early on being interesting in acting, like you always wanted to do that. But how early are we talking in your life that you remember?
Oh, the first play I did was Mary Poppins, and I was 4th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you just catch the bug that that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, my father was an actor.
Okay.
In the city in Chicago for a long time. And so I, not necessarily took after him, but I was just good at it. You just do what you're good at, I guess. You know? And so I did that for a long time.
Well, when you studied in college, was the goal to have that as a career? The aspirations was to make it a career, right?
Yeah, I went to a conservatory.
Okay. Like you said that earlier, and I've heard of the term conservatory, but like tell me what that means in the acting world, a conservatory.
I'm going to butcher the definition, but basically imagine going to school studying all the facets of one thing with no academics.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were academics because you could get your BFA there, but I opted not to because the only thing you could use a BFA for, I think at the time, is to teach.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I wanted to do. And so I wanted to be an actor, man. I wanted to get to New York. I wanted to get an agent. I wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to do all that.
You did go to New York, though, right? Yeah. Or did you pursue it?
Yeah, and I had an agent.
Okay.
And we talked earlier. Like
I know and it's sometimes it's funny. We'll have coffee and we'll cover these things. It's like, well, it's because it would be good for the podcast, right? So I know you're retelling it to me, but I'd like to hear.
Auditioning was a challenge for me.
Yeah, same here. And I think some folks that have heard this before, I share from time to time. Pursued acting myself, but more later in life. Like I was a soccer player in college. My entire life revolved around soccer from like 12 to 23. Yeah. And that's the only thing I cared about. Getting a degree was sort of secondary to like, I wanted to maybe even be a pro soccer player, and that just wasn't in the cards. And then it was after college when I'm like, well, who am I? If I'm not the soccer player anymore, what am I? And
exactly.
I'm like, man, I love stand up. I think that that was in the era of like the really funny buddy comedies, the Will Ferrells of the world, like just David Spade, Tommy Boy, like all this stuff. And I'm like, that looks awesome. I should do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like soccer and sport, especially soccer as a sport, it's all creativity because it's all fluid. There's no set plays, and you're just working through in the moment trying to create a goal or whatever. And so I'm like, well, I don't have a creative outlet anymore. Let's try this acting thing. And so I studied for a number of years. After work, I'd go 2 nights a week to a class and break down scenes, and I loved it, man. Got into stand-up as a result of that. And then I don't know what I really thought was going to happen. I just knew
I thought you were going to sell insurance.
Of course, I'm pretty sure this is what insurance people do to get prepared to be good at it.
Right. Yeah.
But I think what I realized it was a good outlet for me. I developed skills in things that terrified me, like being in front of people and performing or talking. But I wasn't sure what I was going to do, other than it was fun. And I just wanted a pursuit of some kind. And I also like hard stuff. I don't know if you're the kind of guy that I want to pursue things that like have an impossible chance of
I like
succeeding.
a little less resistance in what I'm doing. But
I don't know. I mean, it's just like lean into something super hard. You're probably going to fail, but like it'll be fun trying. But I look back now, and all of that sort of prepared me for things like this today. And I would have never expected that was the case.
Yeah, anything that can break down any self-awareness, anytime you can communicate with people or get trained in communication, I think it does nothing but benefit anyone who's going to be in sales or going to be,
Well, there's kind of the cliche, right? To like you're in sales, go take an improv class. I feel like that's sort of like a corporate cliche to a degree, but it's because that ability to think on your feet and work with another person, listen, that translates into sales for sure.
Yeah. I think it's benefited both of us.
Yeah. Well, so obviously that career path didn't work. You got into selling the product. Why don't you tell us like how that happened and what your career was at that point?
Yeah. Okay. So this has to do with my mother, and I've already been through therapy to kind of deal with this. So I don't know that I'll break down. But we lost her to ALS in 2014.
Okay.
10 years prior to that. She had breast cancer.
Okay.
She had cancer in one breast. Okay. Precancerous calcifications in the other. The health insurance carrier at the time, this is 2004, I was not in insurance. I didn't know anything about the industry or whatever. At the time, they would not pay for a double mastectomy because there was not cancer in the second breast.
So they'd only do one, then a single?
A single, yeah. And so my mother got a second opinion, third opinion. They all said the same thing. She called the health insurance carrier and she goes, there will be no carrier when I'm done with you if you don't do a double mastectomy. So they relented. And the tricky thing about that is the healing time from a double mastectomy at the time was like 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
So my stepfather had to take 3 weeks off to come, and she couldn't lift her arms past her waist. So think about that.
Yeah.
if you can't lift your arms past your waist, you can't do anything.
Yeah, how do you even eat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So someone has to be there for you. So I put a pin in that. So my now business partner, best friend, Dan Ellis, his wife, we met at a restaurant again after 20 years, right? And his wife was just crushing it, selling this product. We know it is voluntary, right? Windfall of money if you go through the worst thing, right? And so that story, like with my mom, I was done selling, upselling somebody from a glass of wine to a bottle. Like the last restaurant I worked at was this chef-driven restaurant. Okay. Who thought he was curing cancer one plate at a time. And I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. So I was like, oh yeah, she's selling this thing. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
And then I found out that was what that product did. And I'm like, oh, I've seen that. I was like, because I don't know about you, like I can't sell anything that I'm not the littlest bit passionate about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why I've been on the sales path I've been on. And I was telling you over coffee this morning, I didn't pursue sales as a career early in my career because I thought I had a negative stigma associated with sales. Then I realized if you're selling a thing that works, that you believe in, that you're passionate about, that I can get around because it's more about educating a customer and finding a problem. And if you can solve it, great. If you can't, I'm also okay with, hey, that's somebody else can solve that for you. And then once I accepted that that's really what sales effectiveness was about, I'm like, this is actually what I do want to do.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It's super hard because if you have something that you're really, really passionate about, you want to run around telling the world they need it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's where
convincing them they need
exactly, it. Right? Convincing, persuading, that kind of thing. When you elevate your sales game, it's where you detach yourself from the outcome, right? Even though you may be in a commission-only sales gig where like your partner is telling you, right, we need to pay this bill, this bill, this bill. That's what you get trust with the person if you can feign kind of detachment.
Yeah.
And really focus on them. Right. Like dig and find those pain points.
Well, since you're an actor, you'll probably appreciate this. I think a lot about the hero's journey that we go through as salespeople, but we're not the hero, in my opinion, in the sales process. The prospect or the customer is, and our job is to be the guide through that journey.
Yeah.
And so I think of how do you effectively bring somebody along, transform them, take them out of their normal world, take them through some sort of transformation, bring them back on the other side with a new skill or knowledge. That's the role of the wise old sage or, the guide. That I feel like is our job and what we do at Pareto. And that resonates really well with me.
Yeah.
And so I feel like don't make yourself, it's not about you. It's not about, I need this commission. I've got desperation on my breath. It's like, no, if you can help them and transform them and on the other side, they're better as a result of it. That's the one you want to take on that journey.
100%.
And then you can walk away if it's not the case as well, as long as you can work from a place of abundance. But I want to ask you, working in the restaurant business, and you're talking about upselling a glass of wine to a bottle, you have sales skills, you have some of the customer service and all those things. Did it translate into this new gig?
Yeah. Are you talking about the
going into the voluntary product sales role?
Yeah. My biggest thing was when I got in front of an employer, or especially educating an employee, it's like we used to have a saying, just educate and the sales will come. Right? Like the closing ratios pretty much bore out. You get in front of 10 people, 6 will sign up. Right?
Okay.
Whatever, if it's voluntary. But the education of kind of this is what this product does, right? So if you go through X, Y, or Z, you may need a safety net. And I don't know, man, through the acting, the steak tray at the fine dining steakhouse, right? You're like, this is a T-bone, it's all, to me, it's kind of the same thing. It's just then I was doing something that I felt really, really mattered. I thought if I just educated, I did my job.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The other facets to it, like the prospecting and the marketing, and they tried to give you all the skill sets of a well-rounded agent. You had to be able to set the appointment, close the deal, educate the employees, and then service the account, right?
Yeah.
It's all those things. I was never good at all of them.
Okay.
I was good at like 2. You know
And then
I
what
mean?
do? Do you bring somebody in on the team that can help fill in the areas where you might be deficient in?
Yeah, well, in that context, you're kind of like you're on your own, sort of. You have a team.
Yeah.
And it's a big team kind of environment. But you kind of had to eventually get good at all of them. The only time you brought, at least in my experience, like I remember there was a big theater, okay? So when I started in B2B, I went to what I thought I knew, which were restaurants and theaters, right?
Okay.
It's interesting how we do that. The biggest theater in Chicago. So it was like a crown jewel. I wanted it. And so this is super interesting. It's like I called, it's like working smarter, not harder. It's like your network, right? What do they call it? The sphere of influence or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know this person, but it was a producer that I had auditioned for a long time ago, right? Like 10 years prior. I called him up and I was like, so-and-so, I don't know if you remember me. You may know my father, because my father was an actor in Chicago. I was like, I don't know, I'm doing something that may be able to help you. I don't know if it will, but I don't know who to talk to, right? He goes, oh, that's so-and-so. He's the general manager. So I call the so-and-so, the general manager, and I say, so-and-so just told me to call you.
Yeah.
He gave me the meeting, first call.
Yeah.
The first question I ask when I get in the room is, why are we here? Why did you take this meeting? He goes, because you mentioned so-and-so, right? And I forgot where I was going with that, but like that was a crown jewel.
Well, I would say the art of networking. I've got a buddy that comes to mind. I'll give some shine to Mike Pattengale. He's at Ocunet now. Used to be at Springbuck, but Mike, I've never seen somebody better at networking. And he'll be like, this guy needs to meet this person or this girl, and here's why they should meet. And he'll put pieces together. But then I've seen him at events where he's got 12 balls he's juggling in the air at each time. He's got to be here, he's going to be here, he's going to meet with this person, then we're setting up this, and I've got this dinner, and it's like, I've never seen somebody network better. And by extension, his ability to be a master networker makes his job easier as a salesperson because there's a high level of trust, credibility, but also people go, I like that guy, and he connected me to this person, and so they want to help him as a result of.
Do you like networking?
Now, to an extent, I prefer to be the person that connects the other people.
Yeah.
Like I've discovered the role of a connector now is like I get so much joy if I get these two people in a room together and I know they can do business together and they trust me to say you should meet with this person, or helped recently some folks, hey, I'm looking for a person that does this, get that person to them, they get the job, they're now excelling. Like I love that stuff. It's almost like, how do I help other people combined, but they don't know each other yet. So my job is to make sure they know each other. That stuff is fun.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that recently, actually. The theater, you asked a question, which was, do you bring somebody in to help kind of cover your deficiencies? Is like, what's the line in sales is like, pay people to do the shit you hate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's not necessarily, it's almost that, because with a group that's a little bit bigger, you got to bring more people in, and then you take you split the commission. And yeah, I like to be the guy that just kind of closed the deals and brought everybody else in.
Well, but so you had to have become just a master prospector, I feel like, in that world, right? Because everything was all commission, right? You guys were a 1099 field sales team, right?
Yeah. And then I taught prospecting for a long time.
You did?
But yeah.
So can we talk about that though? I think prospecting process, I mean, it's never a bad conversation if you get into sales skills and how can people be successful. So like, tell me about the art of prospecting, man, from your perspective.
Being efficient. Okay. It's really hard. If you're in a metro area, like I was a phone guy.
Okay.
Like just give me a phone.
You're a great cold caller then?
I wouldn't, no. I wouldn't say,
You're a willing cold caller.
At the beginning, I was willing, right? But a big Excel spreadsheet, and you just plow, like dialing for dollars, like throwing a 5 on the floor, and the first appointment gets that. But just quickly dealing with objections, right?
Okay.
Like if you, not interested, too busy, all the objections you get when just trying to set an appointment over the phone. Prospecting. So what's interesting, when I was with that carrier, I was in a metro, right, market. And then in 2014, when my mom got sick, I left that metro market and went to like Champaign is a rural kind of market.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, kind of. There's a college town there.
Okay.
But it's a college town in the middle of a
What college is there?
U of I.
U of I. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cornfield, Illinois. Yeah. But so there it was like now driving to the various places, staying efficient and organized, because you have to, one of the best trainers I ever had said, don't walk into a place once if you're not also willing to walk into it 10 times.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Familiarity.
Yeah.
Building familiarity. And the why, I mean, I learned this and taught this at a 100% commission environment, and the attrition in sales, it is what it is for a reason, is that for somebody to go into a business, rejection is I can get deep real here
Please, yeah.
if you want. There's a really primal thing that happens when it's called, putting yourself out there, right? That thing, right? Is that as humans, I think that we all are born with this desire for connection.
Of course.
Right.
I would agree
Okay.
100%.
What's the opposite of connection?
It's rejection, right?
Isolation.
Isolation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I walk, let's say you're a business owner, and I walk into you and I say, hi, my name is Chris Cordon. I'm with Legacy Agencies. We're doing some pretty cool things for some of the small businesses in the neighborhood. I'd love to get some time on your calendar next week. What does Thursday look like? Is the morning better or is the afternoon good? Right. If I just do that whole value prop, and then you say not interested. Usually you say it in a tone that is not very nice.
Dismissive, right?
Right.
Get out of here, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Isolation. Like it's the opposite of connecting with that person.
Yeah.
Okay. And this touches a very primal thing, I think.
Yeah.
That's why most people can't do it. Is because it gets into their, I don't know what it is, into their self-worth.
Yeah.
It gets into their I can't go, or their pocketbook or their wallet.
Yeah.
Which is like, I can't pay for like gas to get to these, 150 places in a week.
Yeah.
But
well, I think I would agree with you. And when I was telling you I didn't get into sales until late, I think my aversion to it was the idea of somebody telling me no to my face, or not interested, like you said, or get out of here, or whatever the case may be. That's a visceral sort of thing.
Yeah.
You as an individual feel like you as a person are being rejected. It's not necessarily even the thing at that point that you're selling. It's like, they don't want me here. What's wrong with me, right? And so I think that's probably where my aversion came from. And obviously, as you grow up and mature, you realize that it isn't the case. But still, being rejected at any capacity still sucks.
It's super hard. And like sales trainers, like I was for a while, will tell you, just let it go. Volume takes out the emotion, right? That's the mantra. Volume takes out the emotion in sales, and you can't fix it a lot of times, and so it's not for everybody.
But how did you get good in overcoming that? Because let's say somebody stumbles upon the show, they're 22, they don't know what they want to do, they're thinking about sales, but they're scared about it. How did you overcome that fear of rejection so you could still do your job?
I did it hard for a while at the beginning of my career, but it's kind of an up and down thing. There's a lot I'm bad at. A ton I'm bad at, and drive and motivation from time to time early in my career, that was a thing. But at a certain point, you just kind of admit that it's not about you.
Okay.
It's not about you. It's something that they're going through. And think about when you get a robo-dial to your phone, you don't answer it. Right. It's just another level of knowledge to say it's not personal.
Okay.
Like that, I've said that so many times. It's not personal. It's business. It's hard to get people to understand that. I just got it. I just understood it.
Well, I feel like it's like weathering the storm too, because there's this, like you said, there's a cyclical nature. There's ups and downs in a sales career. When everything's going great, you think you're God's gift to sales. When it's not going so great, you're like, I need to find another career.
I'm horrible
and especially in insurance sales, like a lot of products, you essentially start over at the beginning of the year, right? So you had a great year last year, high five, salesperson of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back at zero with everybody else, and good luck doing it again. Not everybody has the psyche that is able to deal with that. And now, as you have some success, that helps you sort of go through and weather those down times. But if you haven't gotten to a point where you can pay the bills and make a sustainable income, or you have a really good year and you go, wow, this is great, I think sometimes people will go, this just isn't for me. I can't do it. And there's a safety in going back to predictability of income and stuff as well, even if it's not quite as high, you know?
Yeah, my girlfriend would love it if I did that.
You're like, my girlfriend's telling me this every single day. Yeah. But see, I want to move forward then. How long did you do the AFLAC or the voluntary product sales?
13 and a half, 2009. Yeah, 13 and a half years.
Yeah, so you did, I mean, you certainly made a really good go at it, right? And I would say you outlasted 99% of your peers.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And then you discovered one day this idea of like the challenges of medical insurance, right? With your business partner, Dan. I really want to get to that point of the story because that's where you and I started to connect. Yep. And I'd like to hear like what your sort of what you saw and what the opportunity was.
So we started this agency with the knowledge, with the notion to scale it really big, but it's revenue, right? Mm-hmm. Because those voluntary products, there's other carriers that do it. And that the revenue is easy to kind of scale like we did at that company, which commissions and stuff like that. But one day he brought me in. Okay, so this is the funny part. I'm trying to like train the people that we have brought in and, create sales reps. And he's scribbling on the back of a whiteboard, right? You and I share a whiteboard.
Yeah, I love
right?
whiteboards,
okay.
Man.
Well, he's on the whiteboard and I'm walking up. I'm like, ooh, what you doing? And it's this diagram of something. He's like, I'm fixing healthcare. Yeah. And I was like,
you're doing what?
Frustrated because I'm just like, help me.
Yeah.
Help me make money. Help us generate revenue. And we knew nothing. Like, I'm really big on DPC and we didn't know what DPC was at the time. So he drew this diagram and he's like, all right, we triage the primary stuff with telemedicine, right? But, and I'm like, bro, like, just come over here and help me. And then I started kind of really looking at it. And I didn't know anything at the time about how this entire system works. And then, a week later, he's like, look what I found. He found a level funded partner, carrier. They just went public, but that instantly underwrote level funded plans. Now, keep in mind, I still knew nothing about level funded at all. But what I was told about that was that it was going to be upfront commission, which was important for the agents that we recruited. Right. That's how you keep people. Yeah. Yeah. So right then is when I kind of, got infatuated with it. It's how I found your podcast, the early stuff, just to learn what stop loss was.
Well, what do you think made Dan infatuated with this idea of fixing healthcare?
I don't know what book. He was supposed to be here, by the way, but kids. Yeah,
I understand.
I don't remember what book it was, but he knew that there was a problem. I subconsciously knew that there was a problem based on some things that I've seen in my own family, and so I got on board. And now I'm really on board.
Yeah.
But so the medical stuff, we get in front of, as an agency, we get in front of small businesses. And I'm always trying to put those types of plans into those businesses. And, I'm finding partners across the internet, primarily from this podcast.
Well, cool, man. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I want to say something about when you said Dan, and then we'll pick right up there. But you said we knew something was wrong, right? I think most Americans agree and know something is wrong with our healthcare system. They can't name it. They can't pinpoint it. Yeah. Like, one of the reasons I want to do this podcast is to expose the areas of, let's disentangle healthcare and health insurance, but they often get used interchangeably and they're not quite the same thing. But the overarching system that we have, we know it's not working well, right? Or at least not working well for the consumer of it. It's working really well for the owners and the insurance carriers and the stakeholders of those companies. Yeah. But I want to name the problems, and I want people to be able to articulate why these problems exist, and also then discuss the solutions to those problems so that more people are aware of, like, oh, that's the issue. We can solve that. I think until we have enough conversations publicly about actually identifying those things. Most people will just keep going, well, yeah, it sucks, but nothing you can do about it. And then they move on with their day.
Yeah, the medical, and so we're in Chicago, and so I call it the great pivot, right? Like we're doing, it's like something you see, but then you can't unsee, and you must fix, right? So we kind of abandoned what we were doing to pivot into really trying to fix healthcare from our little tiny office in the suburbs of Chicago for small business, right?
Yeah, and define small business for me. We had this conversation over coffee, and I think most people kind of get what you mean, but there's some overlap in what might be a medium-sized to small business. So when you say that, what do you mean by a small business?
Well, I'm talking down to 3 people.
So really small business.
Man.
Okay,
Yeah, 3 to 50.
Yeah.
ClaimDoc is a medical claim auditing and member advocacy company. We provide fiduciary services to employer-sponsored benefit plans, and allowing them to create an environment where we ensure that the benefit plans are being charged in a fair and reasonable basis.
My business is basically people, and it become a real simple transition. We thought it was going to be far more complex. I've saved, we'll say, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I could not say enough about ClaimDoc.
Well, you talked about an underserved market. I mean, we believe here at Pareto, what we do is serving an underserved market to a degree, which would be the small to medium-sized business. So usually 50 to 50 plus, and right around 1,000 or so, it might make less sense. But that size segment is massive. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses in that size segment, and they're not being offered great options. So I can imagine that's exponentially the case with a 3Life group, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. But when you get that small, I mean, there's some great people. I don't know, you 10 times what I do, but I get hit up on LinkedIn all the time based on the content that I put out, like all the time by vendors, right? And there's one, Grant Cox, I think his name is, from Acuity. Like he's got captives that go down to 2. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I've been slammed and haven't really found a fit, but I'm like, hey, there's a solution down there. But
I think the solutions exist. You have to just be willing to go source them out, right? And the difficulty is underwriting groups of that size, especially if they're not pooled, right? So like, if you can't get data, you got to lean on AI, hopefully have good census. You can use social determinants of health, but those things fill in some gaps in actual claims experience, but they don't tell you everything. They can't predict the future either. So the difficulty is like underwriting those effectively, that they're profitable and sustainable, so that they stay around.
Yeah, right? I didn't know any of this. Yeah. When I first started, I was just infatuated with like imagine like fully insured is a cupboard, like your liberate your claims thing, right? That thing, and the thing that I did on the whiteboards not too long ago, right? It's like a cupboard that's fully insured. Open it up and you see the parts.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And the layers, like they're stacked on top of each other.
I knew very little about stop loss from but I was just enamored with this. I mean, we can talk about level funding if you want.
Yeah. I was going to say that. It's funny. It's like, Spencer, you work for Pareto and they sponsor your podcast. Yeah, you're going to talk about level funding. And it's like, I'll address that just because I do think it's interesting. In that product, if it is done correctly, I might have some issues with certain carrier level funded products and restrictions, but it serves a size segment that we even really don't touch, down to that 3Life group, right? And so what do you do? Just go, oh, well, sorry, you're screwed? Or do you highlight and talk about how these things might work for a really, really small employer so they're not left with 0 options instead, right? And I'm cool with having conversations like that might seem conflicting in nature.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, you and I had a conversation about your Tom Broker stuff, and I was like, you could be a character called Level Funded Larry because of all this. I thought, but I mean, I'm just enamored with small businesses getting access to the same tools that the big companies get. Like
me too.
For real. Like what's the number? Like 93% of companies over 5,000 employees are self-funded.
Yeah, the jumbos are almost all self-funded.
Right, yeah. And the reason, people who watch this podcast, they all know, but anyone who doesn't watch this podcast, like it's because you can control it to some degree, right?
Well, and you have scale, which means predictability, and scale also influences buying power, which means you can get access to like tools that a 3Life group probably can't get access to. The captive is and does solve for that. Like, how do you give scale to a 70-life employer? Well, you combine them with 1,000 other employers of that size, and so that solves the stability problem and it solves the access to tools problem, right? But that we actually have a chart that we show, which is like after ERISA, the adoption of self-funding for large employers. And like you said, it's at that 93% clip. And it's like they self-fund because they can and because it's the right call.
Yeah.
And like, why hasn't the small to mid-sized segment followed suit? Is because there hasn't been the solutions that fix some of the problems in that segment. Hence, captives growth over the last 5 to 10 years. And level funding fits in that to a degree.
And I ran into so many issues with that because, that's all I want to do for small businesses is I want to give them that access. And we had a platform that quoted, like it's a speed thing too, because most of all this might be valuable to kind of bridge the gap between these two things is, that company that I told you that was instant AI underwritten. There's some more coming online right now, but that was the first. I think. Okay, you kind of.
I don't know. You
So I got to go back and check because you told me the one over coffee, and I'm like, all right, I didn't know about them. But I saw the stop loss carrier that was built into that. Just arbitrarily jack their rates.
Just overnight, basically.
Yeah, in the middle of quoting like 5 groups.
How big was the jump?
20%.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you probably went from a really competitive and enticing value proposition to like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
At all, right?
And it's not like I'd heard on this podcast, actually, like I'd heard a lot of people saying, well, sometimes it's not a fit or, whatever. And I didn't believe it. I was like, nope. Every company, I'm going to give them the opportunity to have a health plan that can go down, right? Like I wanted every company to have that. And unfortunately, what I kind of run into a lot is people I can't talk them out of like being beholden to a list of doctors.
Yep.
It's tough.
Well, and it's beholden to a list of doctors, but I would describe it as Stockholm syndrome, which, the whole Stockholm experiment. Yeah. It's like you're in a prison cell, but the door is open. You can walk out at any time, but no, it's almost like you want to be there, or you sort of develop an affinity to your captor, at that point. And a lot of times we feel that you hear that in the field as well, that like there are certain markets that are dominated by one fully insured insurance carrier to the tune of 85% market share. And it's like, employers almost feel like if I don't have that logo on my ID card that gets handed to my employees, they're going to leave me and I'm going to lose them. So I guess I just have to deal with all the BS because that's what my employees want. And I think the issue is they haven't been properly educated that like that being beholden to a logo on a card, that's not health care.
Yeah.
That's a logo on a card. That's a marketing engine. And they're restricting you every step of the way of what you can do with your plan. And so you almost have to like compel them. You have to win the heart and mind. You get them to lean in. And then they go, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this for so long. Yet they still have fear. Like, what's my employee going to say if I don't have that logo on that card, man? And I'm sure you experienced that too.
Yeah, doing this with small businesses. I was looking for, I was sales, not really marketing. We recruit internships, massive internships during the summer. And that's kind of boots on the ground was still how we got our clients. But I'm working with all these companies. And every time I would want to bring them these level funded solutions, some of them I had to go with the carrier that I think has a 83 or 90% in the market I'm in. And what I ended up seeing was just like ridiculously stupid stuff. So, if you've seen any of the stuff I put out on, you probably know this, I say it too much, but sometimes you got to do the fully insured carrier for small companies because it's a small pool.
Yeah, and I think I would probably even be good to be clear if 7 Life Group, maybe they should be fully insured, right? I mean, I get that, right? They're trying to build a company and keep it alive. So if I can make that line item predictable and at least I have insurance, like probably the right call. And there are certain circumstances where the risk on that plan is so bad that nobody's going to take them on self-funded. So, okay, there are circumstances where that product should be used. It shouldn't be the dominant product, in my opinion.
Right.
That's kind of where I draw the line.
Yeah, it's like every opportunity you come in front of, you want to do right by them. You want to do better. But that's where the do better came from was just, I'm seeing somebody who has Blue Cross. Blue Cross is the only fit for them, but I'm noticing that they've got the wrong coverage. And so I don't want to belabor this with Blue Cross stuff, but if you're under 50, at least in Illinois, there's 2 networks. There's the Cadillac one, and then there's the lesser one. The lesser one, the Blue Choice Preferred, I think with the exception of one hospital that's in Chicago, it's more than adequate. It's like 93% contract rate
Yeah.
with that network.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many, this is a simple thing, man. This is so stupid. But like, I'm seeing people with that Cadillac network. Okay, now you think, well, what's wrong with that? They want that big network. And then you look at the premiums. You know, I've got an owner complaining. They're paying 100% of the premiums. I've got an employer complaining about the cost. And they're sitting here with this big Cadillac network.
Yeah.
And every single provider and specialist that every single one of their employees has or needs is in the lower network.
Yeah.
And the difference in premium is $300 per employee per month.
Yeah.
You do that math, and sometimes doing better is not really difficult. It's just knowing enough.
Well, I would even say that as well as like you'll get conversations where employers get stuck. Well, I can't leave that carrier and go to this carrier and go self-funded because, there might be some disruption in the provider relationships that my employees have. And therefore, Sally can't go to her preferred doctor. And it's like, well, so you're not interested in fixing your plan over a long period of time for sustainably so and saving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over that time, because Sally might not have the same relationship with that one doctor. Is that doctor even any good? And so are you really going to make everybody pay more over the next 5-10 years because you're worried about a couple people that don't get the relationship with that one doctor when they can go to one down the street instead that actually might be better from a quality of outcomes perspective? Like, is that really how you're going to make a decision on your health plan? And it gets frustrating at times.
That's a big decision, though, provider stuff, and specifically doctor.
The overlap between carrier networks, whether it's a rental network or a proprietary network, is pretty substantial in most markets. We're not talking about like 25-30% disruption. We're usually talking about low single-digit disruption, and then get really down to like the zip code level and find out who, even identify those providers in advance and then work through those couple issues. But like, what is a network even anyways? A network is a private agreement between an insurance company and a provider of what's going to be reimbursed. And I think if you pay attention on LinkedIn, at least in the ecosystem I'm in, those networks are not doing their job, which is scale lowers cost. They're doing the exact opposite thing. So then you start going, well, what's a network in the first place? And why do I need their network anymore? Because it's costing me more money to have it.
Yeah. Back to the sales thing is like, I just want to I want to inquire with somebody.
Yeah.
And say, explain to me the value of the relationship between you and your primary doctor, because I need to know what it is. Because I'm a big fan of DPC.
Okay,
Shout out.
How come? I am too, but I'd like to hear why you like it so much, man.
Man, okay, so keep in mind when you've got a plan, level funded or not, right? Like self-funded. If you've got an aspect of the plan that you can kind of control with good behavior. Remember my business partner, Dan, who's triaging everything with telemed?
Yeah.
All right. So we found a direct primary care doctor. Shout out Natasha in Chicago. But we found a direct primary care doctor, and we're like, oh, subscription service. Immediate next day. Like that, there it is. There it is. There's, and then you do more research, and, DPC can help 80% of critical illnesses, help abridge those are big claims. Then that's where I got the love of it. So we wanted to build a network of DPCs in Chicago. And so I started cold calling DPCs, right? I just Googled DPCs near me. And then I found my own concierge doc, Tom Caraballo at Fashioned Health in Chicago. He's my guy. And, he is a big reason, along with, because I love Tom, right? Like cares about my health, full men's panel, showed me exactly what had been going on because I lost a bunch of weight and I wanted to know what my body was doing. And, that helped me a ton, helped my health a ton. But then DPC as a cost containment mechanism for small business. Also, one other thing we haven't talked about, or I haven't told you this, is back to sales, right? Like small businesses, when you're at 4% unemployment for such a long time, obviously attraction, retention, like that's the big buzzword. If there's an issue with budget to get health insurance, right? I used to use it in my voluntary life a lot. Here, you can offer something.
Yeah.
DPC standalone for small companies, right? Like if you think about it, people get health insurance. People get health insurance for two reasons. It's so they can see a doctor and they don't go broke if they get into a car accident.
Yeah.
Well, DPC solves half of that.
Chronic health issues, surprise out-of-network medical bills, inflated medical and prescription drug prices. These issues cost self-insured employers hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Add to this the rising cost of care and potential for waste across the life of a claim, and it's clear that self-insured employers need innovative solutions that lower their health plan spend. At Valence, we've done just that, developed innovation that shifts the current paradigm. A complete and integrated ecosystem solution driven by data, one that manages and simplifies the complexity of medical claim costs. It is through analyzing millions of data points that we enable employers to realize and fuel cost-saving solutions. Valence experts come prepared from day one, targeting the fraction of claims that will drive the majority of health plan costs. That is how our team lives the Valence promise, engaging early and often for smarter, better, faster healthcare.
Well, DPC though, it's in. I've covered it probably exhaustively this last year, maybe to the point of like focusing on it so much. But I believe in the value of like a really strong primary care foundation for a health plan for everything you just described, and then some. It's like restoring a doctor-patient relationship to the point where the doctor's sort of proactively engaging you in your health to make sure you're doing well. Because if you get out in front of chronic diseases or the development of chronic diseases ahead of time, then you're not dealing with catastrophic issues as much on the back end because it wasn't caught or wasn't prevented. And what does a primary care doctor do? He or she does those things. And so the proliferation of DPC in the last few years has been an exciting development in healthcare. And I think it would behoove most employers to explore some version of that inside their health plan.
Yeah.
And then what I like, Chris, is it disentangles primary care from insurance. Because one of the biggest issues I see in the insurance side of things is that everything gets funneled under the umbrella of health insurance, and very routine, normal activities. Go to the doctor and get blood work is now funneled under insurance. So everything is insurance, which means everything goes into your premium, which means costs go up over time. Insurance is for catastrophic unforeseen events. It's not for I need to go get a checkup at the doctor.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's where when you pull those things apart, now you're paying a flat fee or a fixed fee, or sometimes there's a value-based component where if the doctor overperforms on a chronic disease state or schedule, then they might actually earn a little bit more because they did such a good job at primary care that I prevented diseases in this cohort. That's great. But then now it's fixed as a line item. And it's not insured, where you've got profit margin and other things baked in on top of it. So it's not affecting the other kind of claims that then are being calculated into the premium for renewal. And so I like the separation of those things. And I think that's better.
It's so nerdy.
Well, to be fair, we just had this conversation on Wednesday with a panel, and we had Donna Snogg.
Don't get me wrong, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
But
that's what I'm saying, like pointing out the things, right? People needed to be able to speak them out loud and know why that's the case and go, oh, well, if everything is covered by my insurance, it's not really insurance anymore. And also, it's going to go up in cost over time because everything's covered by insurance. And I think we've just broken, at least in the health insurance world, we've broken what the idea of insurance is.
Yeah.
That's why you confuse health care and health insurance, and Bernie Sanders doesn't know the difference between the two, because he'll say those two things sometimes because
people interchange
them, but they're not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like making sure that people are aware that that's the case. That's why I get so jazzed up about this stuff, man. Okay, so on the subject of level funding, though, I want to talk about it, right? And I think all level funding really is, it's a version of self-funding.
Yeah.
But it's just a different structure of the reinsurance itself. And it's designed to be a smaller market product, maybe a little heavier on fixed costs so that it's predictable and sustainable. However, it comes with some limitations and restrictions. But that seems to be the thing that can solve the problem in that really small-ish group segment, okay? At least it's better than nothing is kind of the mindset I would take. So, like, what do you know, is it you or Dan that sort of gravitated towards that structure and learning about, like, the moving parts of stop loss and stuff? Or
there's a case that propelled it.
Okay.
It was when this stop loss carrier jacked their rates up by 20%. I had initially got infatuated with it because it was going to be meaningful for the people we recruited because the commission was whatever.
Sure.
That turned out not to be the case.
Okay.
Right? It was just straight PEPM, right? Okay, same as every other thing. But then I was hooked. And when this stop loss carrier jacked their rates, we were going through some things as an agency. So then I was responsible, I threw something else on my plate for going out and finding more partners, because I'm talking about this to these prospects and these clients when I meet with them. And I'm like, it's possible you could have a plan where you've got more control over the seeming uncontrollable. So at that point, it was about fulfilling promises.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So then I reached out, find TPAs everywhere. I find MGUs, right? Everywhere.
You're telling me you're like cold calling a lot of them out of the blue too, right?
Yeah.
Polishing off those skills. Yeah.
Never thought I would cold call like underwriters. Yeah. I was like, hey, how do you guys quote?
Yeah.
Do you guys, health
They're like,
apps?
who is this?
Right, yeah. I was like, we need some health apps. And,
Yeah.
okay, never mind. How do you quote, right? If I heard AI, I even Googled underwriters using AI for stop loss. That's how, because I'm one guy and I want it quick.
Next time, just send me a LinkedIn message and I'll help you with that search.
Right. Yeah.
But no, it's funny too, because AI, I think you were mentioning health apps. That has always been a challenge in that size segment, is like having to go through, often early on it was handwritten apps, like fill out an app with paper and a pen. Then you get electronic form fire and versions of that.
Yeah.
And I think slowly the marketplace is getting around with AI tools being perhaps as good, maybe better in circumstances than those applications, because a human being can lie on an app, right? Like, or misremember or whatever. And so then you get more like, how can we predict this risk in the absence of information at all? And what that does is it removes the friction at the point of sale, which is like, I got to do apps. My employees won't do that. I won't do that, right? And so could the AI tools replace that step in the process and smooth out that friction so that somebody that was super bought in now can immediately get those terms bound and sign up for the plan. And I think we're on the cusp if some carriers are already doing a lot of that stuff right now.
Yeah, I know a lot of carriers are using AI internally. They're still asking for health apps. Okay. And I found a solution kind of with a couple, for 5 months, I became the salon guy.
Okay.
Right? Like the salons were my preferred clients. But because I still have a love.
Well, you got good hair, man. I think maybe that's why you're going to the salons.
Thank you. The salon are usually it's women, primarily staffed with women. So I can't help, when I found out you can tie together voluntary plans that act as a maternity package, where your ROI is like 400% if you time it in the first year, it's ridiculous. So I will always gravitate back towards voluntary, like those, a hospital plan, disability for salons. And then, because I can get one-on-one conditions, right, to educate waiver conditions. During that, I'm also getting health apps. So if a company wants to, that's the only way I've solved it thus far, because I can't do, separate things and do everything else I'm doing. So I found a mechanism to kind of give these companies what they needed immediately. And then if they want to take the temperature on a group health plan, I'm already there.
Yeah.
Right? So that
you landed, then expand.
Get the health apps.
Yeah. For sure. Going back to our sales training. Pareto Health is the largest benefits captive in the United States. With nearly 3,000 captive members, $1.3 billion of stop-loss premium in force, and almost 1 million covered lives, no other benefits captive comes close to Pareto Health's scale. But it's not just about the numbers. Pareto Health is a mission-driven organization, and that mission has two distinct parts. Number one, to make self-insurance simple and more accessible for small to mid-sized employers. And number two, to arm them with the most powerful cost management tools on the market. So if you're an employer frustrated with your healthcare outcomes, or you're a benefits consultant looking for an alternative to the status quo, it's time to consider Pareto Health. Pareto Health, where employers come to do self-insurance right, to do it easily, and to do it at scale. But I'm curious, man, since you've been in sort of this world of health and medical insurance for the last couple of years, pretty knee deep, Like, what's surprising to you, or what have you learned that was like shocking? I mean, there had to have been some sort of like epiphanies that happened along the way, since it wasn't really what you used to do before this.
I mean, okay, so the network thing that I already said, to me, that was like the easiest thing. That's just laziness. To me,
Yeah.
I mean, and I know laziness because it affects me a lot. So I know it when I say it.
I can spot it.
I know when I say it, right? Yeah. But that's one thing. Companies, getting into a PEO
Okay.
and not doing the medical.
Really?
Yeah, carving out, because Blue Cross, man, Chicago, right? Like if that PEO doesn't do Blue Cross, if it's like Aetna or
Yeah.
United, they carve it out and the PEO is still charging them because they're getting their ancillary through the PEO. And it's the same price, and
The more you dig into the space, man, the more, it's hard not to get jaded and frustrated because there are so many hands in the cookie jar along the way. And most of the time, those people extracting value out of the equation aren't actually adding, like they're extracting economic value, but they're not adding any sort of quality back into the mix. And you start to get really frustrated because there's so much margin in the health insurance business that sustains a lot of businesses that probably shouldn't be propped up, but most people are unaware that they exist. You were saying, hey, going down the weeds of pharmacy is kind of like scary for you.
I'm purposefully not going down that rabbit hole.
I kind of get as far as I need to, and I come back out because I really think that's like the dark arts of healthcare in the United States. And you can't help but be extremely angry once you uncover some of the practices there.
Yeah.
And really what it comes down to is I want to do the right thing and what's right by people. And I won't always have the right solution, or the terms won't always make sense, and I'm okay with that. But on balance, I know the things that I talk about and pursue and sell are the right things. Like they're at least on the right side of the fight. We actually have a tagline in my company, be on the right side of the fight. And so it won't always be for everyone, but those that have the right mindset and the willingness to lean in, they can join on the right side of the fight. And there's something about being able to operate with a clear conscience and do a good job that entices me.
Yeah, you want to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like these salespeople who like purposefully walk somebody. I felt that a little bit at the old place.
Yeah.
Because the incentives are such, when you're a publicly traded company, it's just like I never want to hear the numbers 13, 26, 39, 52 ever again.
Explain those to me. What's that mean?
Those are the last weeks of the quarter.
Right.
Okay. So
it's all quota all the time.
And if you're sitting with an employer and they want one thing and you got to hit a number, there's a little chance there that you could not do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you could get the number.
Now I love it because if a client prospect, if they need something specific and I know that I've got that tool in my tool belt, that's where I bring them. You know?
Well, I want to kind of finish the podcast on the conversation about the life and the world of a startup, and starting a business from scratch and the pros and cons, I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
So give me the reality of the world of kind of a bootstrapped company, man.
Never bootstrap a medical agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
$27 per employee per month ain't gonna do it. No.
Yeah.
But no, I saw something on LinkedIn the other day. It was like a video of somebody swinging at the end of a palm tree or something. Like they climbed to the top of a palm tree. The caption was literally startups pivoting.
Yeah.
Right? And it was, right. But
but I don't know what the average number of times you pivot as a startup. Like it's like multiple iterations, and it's often completely different than what was originally envisioned in order to keep the company afloat. Because it's almost like you're finding out as you're flying the plane, you're building it, and you're finding out in real time whether there's demand or there's a market for what you do, or you had a theory that you thought was correct, and then you found out the reality was a little bit different. You're like, well, let's go over here now.
Yeah.
And that's a very common feature, from my understanding, of founding a business.
yeah, I haven't talked, believe it or not, I haven't talked to many other founders. I just know our experience and our journey has been one of, we wanted to do this thing and we wanted to grow multiple offices based on the comp from one type of product. and then we drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And, we want to fix healthcare for small companies.
Yeah.
Now, in the middle of doing that, we, cash poor, all that stuff. But we want to escalate something that we had planned. I'm do better guy on LinkedIn. And we're launching kind of a side business that's going to grow into a large tech ecosystem.
Okay.
Going to be approaching venture capital at some point.
Right.
Soon for something we've already got planned.
Okay. Well, I realize you got to be a little coy, so no worries there.
Yeah. That'll be super fun and important and risky.
Yeah.
But in terms of a start,
do you have high tolerance for risk? Because most founders, that's kind of a feature or characteristic of their personality.
Oh, it's not a bug; it's a feature.
It's a feature.
And my personal life is kind of suffering because of it.
Yeah.
Because my partner, the woman I want to marry, we couldn't be more opposite on this. Tolerance for risk. Mine is way high.
Yeah.
But it is. Otherwise, I'll go work for Pareto or something.
Never mind, man.
But the startup world, I don't know. When you hear startup, you hear co-founder or whatever.
Yeah.
You think tech.
Yeah.
Right? We've started a benefits agency.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, now that I've been doing it for 2 years now, anything more ridiculous. Honestly, I just know that we've been doing really well by some companies, like the couple different pain points that I've found. I'll go broke doing that. That's a high for me.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to see a problem that's so obvious to me with limited knowledge and fix it for a company whose second biggest expense is that thing.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That sleep at night, I sleep like a baby. You know what I mean? That's something that is still driving me, Well,
but it's this marketplace can sustain an infinite number of good products or solutions, and there will always be a demand for your ability to solve this. I was telling you, the kind of the size of the total addressable market in our mid-size segment, and then if you look at the size segment, that smaller group that you're talking about, it's almost equal in number of businesses. And then America is a country of entrepreneurs and innovators, and businesses are started every single day, and some succeed, some fail, and then more replace the ones that fail. Right?
I was watching a Bricker, Dr. Bricker, a random video from a year ago of his this morning.
Yeah.
And it was about consultants and brokers, right? And he says, of the $4.5 trillion problem, 28% of it, right? It's like 1.8 billion or whatever, is done through employer-sponsored plans. That makes the broker, the consultant, if you've got the trust with an employer, right there, that's...
I view it as the biggest lever, right? I'm not in the Medicare space. I'm not in the individual market,
right.
But employers do make up a sizable percentage of the commercial insurance market, and I think they also have the scale in order to actually effectuate change. And then consultants or agencies are the conduit for that to happen. Yeah. And for better or for worse, right? So that's our job at my company, at least, is to then go identify who the ones are that we want to partner with, that we believe are doing the right things, and that could use what we do on behalf of their employers. Not everybody is that's the case, and that's okay. That's fine. They can do their own thing. The role of the consultant or broker is so important to our economy right now. And we need more and more and more willing to go down this path rather than stick with what's not working anymore.
I think if you're a consultant, a broker who's got any, I don't know, credibility is not the word I want to use. It's if you've got any conscience, right? What's happening right now is unsustainable, right? That I've done the graphs on whiteboards, right? 2007, it's 300% or whatever. I'm butchering the numbers, but what you're doing for your clients is not sustainable. That they know it's unsustainable. I'm convinced a lot of brokers, a lot of consultants out there, especially in my space for small to mid-sized businesses, they just don't know.
It's possible.
They don't know. They just don't know. It's like they think level fund, like at level fund at Aetna, right? Like, under 50.
Cigna. We think
that's
Cigna.
it.
Yeah.
That's it, right? That's the extent of their knowledge.
Yeah. Having spent years working alongside healthcare leaders, brokers, and employers, I know how overwhelming healthcare can feel for our customers. We've all been there. Those renewal conversations that never seem to get easier. Rising pharmacy costs and medical costs, and no real transparency into where healthcare dollars are going. That's why I'm excited about Nomi Health. They're not just fixing the old system. They've rebuilt self-funded benefits from the ground up. With Nomi's network, you can offer something truly different. No copays, no deductibles, zero out-of-pocket costs when members see a provider. It's the kind of benefit that makes everyone ask, why hasn't healthcare always worked this way? Ready to bring your clients something different? Visit nomihealth.com and see how Nomi is rebuilding healthcare, one employer and one community at a time.
And so what's really, really fun about this is, I put out content on LinkedIn.
Well, I was going to ask you, I want to talk about your content strategy too, because I've noticed you making your videos recently where you've got the black and white version of yourself as well. Yeah. Like has that, obviously that gets you the ability to dust off the acting and improv skills and stuff, but have you seen that be beneficial to your business as well?
Yeah, the Venn diagram is definitely intersecting on this. Has it helped my business? I'm to be determined.
Okay.
Because
it is a long game though. I think a lot of people think that, I make a piece of content and all of a sudden a prospect's going to be pounding on my door to say, I want what you have. It's a years long process, what I've discovered.
Yeah, I'm using, I just started doing it. Like 3 weeks, or about 3 weeks ago.
Well, you're popping up on my algorithm all the time, man. So you're doing something right.
All right. Yeah. So I'm kind of I've got a story arc built for this character who's in black and white. And actually, Nathaniel and I were talking when you stepped out a while ago. It's the editing software, like a new magnetic mask just dropped in the latest update. And so I used it for what is this novelty. And now I'm writing it and falling in love with the character of this broker who's in black and white, who is in therapy, right? And the therapist, is trying to get him to do better, right? And well,
and that's what I'm saying. I love the concept. I watch every one, and I think it's really cool just you playing both characters, but one's in black and white and one's in color, right? And it's obviously to me, the association is there's the old school version that's being left behind, and the new color version is the new modern agent, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I think in a few weeks. I'm just using it right now, and I know Andy Neary is important to you. I mean, he's as a connection on LinkedIn. I heard, he talks about consistency. And so I just started creating some things that I want to release consistently. And so, this new thing, it's a Venn diagram intersecting fully on the ability to utilize what I think is a skill set in order to educate. I think more of that needs to be done. I mean, what I'm doing is not perfect by any stretch or whatever, but it's...
I have plenty of friends, and if you're consistent and you do it over time, and Andy's a big purveyor of this, but if you do those two things, eventually it does lead to people seeking you out and saying, I need to talk to you, or I want to hire you, which is every salesperson's dream, right? Somebody to call you and say, I want to hire you, rather than you have to go find them and convince them. I think what content does over that period of time is allow them to develop a relationship with you personally, but also what you know. And it's almost like you cast a very wide net, and every single piece of content brings a couple new people into your ecosystem. And over time, they watch your stuff and you impact them in some way. And eventually, buyers will come to you, and the better you do and the more consistent you are, the more often that can happen. And so it is a long game to shift from elbow grease and cold calls and cold DMs. It's a long game, and I wouldn't say you displace those things. You do them both. But eventually, just like here, you were an actor. My old acting coach told me, you're going to hate auditioning. You're going to have to audition all the time to eventually get the right to work. And eventually, if you're undeniable and good enough, over time, they take auditioning away from you and they just call you up and say, we want you for this part. I feel like that's very similar to what content can do for a salesperson or a marketing person over time. Eventually, you don't have to call people anymore. They're going to be calling you.
But you still have to. And then you hope that, it's all about the reaching out and connecting with them, right? Because trust me, insurance people are a whole lot easier to connect with than my client profile, which are business owners.
Yeah, fair.
Right?
Your job is different than mine, and I will fully appreciate that. And I do have buddies that do what you do as an agent, and they have similar success over time. I keep saying that over and over again.
You hope that they see it.
Yeah.
Like when you reach out to them and you call them, you hope that they've seen, not the acting stuff, but like just the videos of, yo, hey, we did this for this client. We did this for this client. You know, if the familiarity that you're building.
Yeah. Well, but I'm saying anybody can do it too. And I've had people tell me over and over again, I'll have people go, oh, well, we make all our new account managers or salespeople watch your whiteboard videos. Like you're part of our training and onboarding process.
Yeah, man.
Like how powerful is that if 5 years from now I meet that person and they've got their own book of business and they're like, you're the dude that taught me stop loss insurance, right?
Yeah.
What else do I have to do at that point walking? I have to not screw it up is what I have to do at that point if I walk in that door. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about is the horizon that you need to think about if content is a powerful pursuit as a salesperson. Like you have to give it enough of time. Well, Chris, I feel like we should move towards the end of this. We've probably been talking for an hour or so. But anything we haven't covered, man, I feel like we covered a lot of ground here. And
yeah, it's been kind of frenetic. And I apologize.
No, but I love that. I love it as a host because that means we can go anywhere with the conversation and it's not too rigid. But, we got to cover acting and sales and voluntary products and level funding and whiteboarding and social media, telling your story, all of that. If you want to kind of look future looking real quick, I usually ask people what they think healthcare is going to look like in the next couple of years.
Well,
I'd love your perspective on that.
I think AI is going to play a big role.
Okay.
And I'm only thinking about it through the prism of the broker consultant. I think that the need for speed is going to force it to catch up a lot quicker. I mean, what I want the future to look like is I just want 400% of the cost of stuff gone. And then Russell Pacala from Yuzu, who's on here, I never forget what he said when you asked him this question. He goes, I think networks are going away.
Yeah.
And I hope that's.
Well, I share in his sentiment. And I don't know if he planted that seed in my mind or not, but I just think the original value of what a network is supposed to be has been so eroded because now we have access to data, claims data, true payment information at scale, that what's the point of a network contract negotiating on behalf in this circumstance when we know what it's supposed to cost? We know the entire episode of Care, what the price should be. So how can you tell me it's supposed to be 7 times that amount? It's not. Right. So I do think that value of a network is certainly eroding in front of our eyes. Whether it goes away altogether, I don't know. You can have more localized, powerful, narrow networks with direct contracts and things like that. But these national carrier networks certainly don't seem as valuable to me as they maybe used to be.
If you're an employer, but if you're in multiple states, you got to have some uniformity, I think, across states. But let's hope, because what's happening now at the contracted rate level, that's major part of the unsustainability of this thing.
Agreed. Okay, so closing thoughts then, Chris. Like you said, we covered a lot of ground, but what's something you want people to leave and think about? It's always the hardest question, I know.
Well, again, I'm thinking of employers. Employers and people, you and me and other employers, they get bothered by a lot of stuff, right? But what I would advocate is that if you're an employer, if someone comes up and knocks on your door or walks into your business, take a second and breathe and listen to what they have to say. I usually give salespeople a shot.
I understand that. I totally understand that.
I'll listen to what they say, but you better be quick and you better be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you give them advice in that situation if they're not very good? Do you feel like you take them under your wing a little bit?
I've done that a few times and it's never turned out well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Think they're resistant to your feedback or what?
Yeah. No, it's just I get too into it and the conversation lasts too long.
Yeah.
But
that's funny. Yeah.
But
that's the teacher in you, man. That's the coach and the teacher in you. And I get that too. Like giving salespeople grace, right? I understand how hard it is, especially when you start. And so if you're a successful salesperson and you're a jerk to a new one, like you're not thinking about what it was like for you
Right.
when you did it as well. So I would agree with that sentiment completely. Well, again, Chris, I really appreciate you traveling down here.
Yeah, thank you for
this. Has been fun.
Thank you for this, Spencer.
Yeah. I hope
Good
this was
time.
valuable for you. I can't wait to release it and give you all the footage and whatnot. But I wish you luck, man, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
Cool.
Thanks, man.